Hi, and welcome to this exciting new web application from SignUp Software. There still exists the standard built-in workspace, which works perfectly fine, but we at SignUp are always striving to achieve improved user experience, and hence this new application is now available to give the approvers better efficiency, mobility, and an overall improvement in the approval experience. Both approval spaces are automatically activated by the approver clicking on the hyperlink on the approval notification email. The approval email looks something like this and can be formatted to suit your requirements. This is typically sent out daily or whatever frequency suits you. This will connect automatically the approver to the approval's website. Let's have a brief look at the previous or built-in workspace, just to refresh our memory so that we can see easily the difference between the two. I'll just navigate to the My Vendor Invoices workspace. First of all, we notice that the workspace is within Dynamics 365 itself. On the left we have the filters, and we can see the following: all My Vendor invoices to approve, invoices which are on hold, invoices not yet with me but coming to me in the future, cost or non-purchase order invoices, purchase order invoices, ones that are already due for approval, and recent, which means they've already been processed. If I scroll to the right a little bit, I can see the pertinent information regarding each invoice, with information such as invoice number, vendor name, amount, sales tax amount, currency, due date, and so on. Further to the right, we have some graphical representation of the information, as well as links where we can delegate approvals, as well as perform searches, and so on. Clicking on the invoice number opens up a new screen with more information for that particular invoice. Most of this information can be edited if you have sufficient security, such as splitting a line into multiple lines, changing the accounts and dimension coding, etc. The invoice can be put on hold or rejected, and if I do that I need to put in a comment. We can approve all lines, we can approve a single line, we can add and remove lines, and we can add comments. Clicking on the Approvers tab, we can see who the invoice is currently with, who has approved it previously, and who it's going to next, which may be multiple approvers. If the coding or any other vital information is changed, it may result in an automatic change of the approval route, and you may be able to add additional approvers if required. Now let's have a look at the new web application. As you can see, the interface looks quite different. The functionality has been enhanced and the core functions remain pretty much the same, meaning that if your staff are already using the previous interface, they will know automatically how to use the new one with a 5-minute overview or indeed self-taught. It's that easy. To the left we have our inbox, which is again filtered to show invoices which are already due, ones that are coming in the future, ones that have already been processed, and ones that are on hold. In the middle we have our header information, showing all the invoices that are currently with me for approval and processing, and summary information such as the invoice number, the vendor name, the amount, and so on. To the right, as I said, we have a graphical representation. In this example, I have a total of 2 invoices which are already due for approval. Read Up gives some great online help, which is always being updated by SignUp Software as the interface is enhanced. Many of the topics include an animation of how to navigate through the various user interface functions, as well as hints and tips. For example, how to approve, how to expand and contract, search hints, keyboard shortcuts, and more. Next we have a link where we can add replaces. That is, if someone else should approve or reject this invoice. For example, if I'm sick or on leave. Here I can select the company of the replacer, I can select the replacer itself, and I can select the start and end date of that particular delegation. In this section also, if I click on the second dot, I can select my preferences, the selected language which the user interface will display in, and the selected formatting for things like number formats and date formats. Clicking on the third option, I can decide which fields should display on the overview, in which order they should display, and whether they are sorted in ascending or descending order by default. In the fifth option, this gives the system administrator an area where he or she can give notifications to the approvers. For example, if I type, "Please perform your approvals promptly," and hit add, we'll now be able to see, if we navigate back to the main menu, I can see the notification appearing here. Up in the top center, we can choose the company which you currently want to do your approvals in, and also perform sorting based on any of the fields available, either ascending or descending. On the right hand side at the bottom, we have an area notifying you if you have any comments for this particular invoice. There are none at this point, but let's have a look at further details of one of these invoices. Clicking anywhere on the invoice header record will open the selected invoice to show more detail. On the right hand side, we can see an image of the original invoice. If necessary, there are options to zoom in and out, and also pop into a separate window if you have a second monitor. Here we can also add attachments. For example, if I hit the paperclip icon, I can attach a file which will be available to view later on. We can also add comments. In the comments screen, we can also see actions performed, such as the amount of $7,000 by user AXEDU01 has been rejected on the 31st of May. I can also direct my comments at specific users that are not already in the approval chain. For example, with the @ symbol, I can choose a user to direct this comment to, let's say AXEDU02. Please double check this one. Now if I log in as AXEDU02, I'll be able to see that comment. Finally, in this area, we have up and down arrows where you can navigate to the previous and next invoice as required. At the top left, we can see the header information, but with more information to view as required. In the middle of the left-hand side, we have the individual lines. In the main lines section by default, the interface will only show you a subset of information to save time and screen real estate. To expand each section, simply click on the arrow next to the relevant header. For example, clicking on the first arrow gives us the opportunity to see the previous, active, and future approvers. From here I can press the drop-down arrow and per line choose whether I want to approve, reject, put on hold, forward to another user, add an approver, or comment on that line. Forwarding results in that invoice or individual line being redirected to another approver, and as such, via Dynamics Approval, the approval chain may in fact change. Adding an approver, however, will add the new approver as the next approver, but keep the original approval chain as the original. Clicking on the arrow next to the coding will show all dimensions, not just those dimensions that have already been populated. To change an amount, we can simply add the amount that we need to change it to, for example $200, and hit the plus sign next to the amount. Apply, and ExFlow will automatically calculate the difference for you, saving time. You can then enter the relevant account and dimensions as required, if they are not automatically defaulted from Dynamics 365. Dynamic approval may also be triggered at this point, meaning that the new line may have a different approval route and needs to be approved by a different user. If the invoice is a purchase order invoice, as this one is, hovering over the order number field will provide additional information on the purchase order, such as the voucher number, the order date, the amounts, which item, how much has been ordered, etc. In the new web application, there are additional search capabilities. Pressing the search button in the middle of the left-hand side here opens up a new area at the top where I can add additional search criteria. At the moment, it's filtered on Contoso Consulting as the company and myself as the approver. I can then add any number of fields to search by. For example, I might want to search by the vendor's name. If I hit select vendor and type in all or part of the name, let's put in distant, and press the search button. This has now filtered this for all invoices coming from that vendor named distant in. What this has done also is automatically added this as a saved search on the left-hand side with these stars. What I'm able to do here is rename, so I can click on the star, call it distant, and hit enter. This is now a saved search and I can easily retrieve this when I need to. Instead of dealing with individual lines on an invoice, if I hover over this green tick at the bottom, we can deal with the whole invoice at once. Here again, we can reject or put on hold, and thus we need to enter a comment. We can forward to another user. We can validate. Validation is a handy tool which validates not only against standard Dynamics 365 validation, but also the additional ExFlow validation. We can save if changing individual lines, and if we've made a mistake or want to go back to the original, we can cancel. I can also show you how it may look on a mobile device, which is probably a lot of the approvers would like to take advantage of. I have here an emulator where I can simulate different mobile devices. At the top here, I can choose which to display, so I might want to see what it looks like as an iPhone 6, for example, as a Galaxy or an iPad. And just hitting the refresh, I'll be able to see what it looks like on a mobile, in this example, an iPad. I'm using a touchscreen monitor at the moment, so without using the mouse, with just my fingers, I can scroll up and down. I can select a single invoice to look at. Again, got the information at the top. I can see further information. I can see an image of the invoice or invoices. So most of the functionality that you can do through a laptop or a desktop, you can also do on your iPhone, your Android, your iPad, and so on. This concludes this overview of the new web application interface for ExFlow for Dynamics 365 for Operations. If you have any questions, please contact your partner or sign up software directly, and we're always more than happy to help. Thanks for watching.